Hello, my name's Nate Gibson, and for my application of learning assignment, I decided to focus on something that is pretty related to the point of my teaching career that I'm at right now, which is getting right into it. Obviously, in the middle of my internship at the moment, and I'm looking ahead as far as what first year teachers should know, and more specifically, as far as the topics of both classroom management and dealing with parents, because those are both things that concern me a little bit, and so I figured it might be beneficial to look into that and maybe learn a thing or two about those areas. Um, so from an article read in class by Ellen Murr, she pointed out that 35% of teachers leave the field after just either within or after the first year, and that number increases to 50% within the first 5 years. So obviously, there's something going on um, with individuals as they get into this profession that either they're overwhelmed or there's expectations aren't met or there's something's happening um, that's leading to this very low retention rate. Um, and that same article, titled "The Phases of First Year of Teaching," describes these five different phases of your first year. And currently, I find myself in what she describes as the anticipation phase, which is prior to your first year, during your student teaching experience. And the idea of teaching is kind of this romanticized idea where you're just thinking about how much of a difference you're going to make in the lives of students, and it seems like such an awesome thing to get into. And there's a lot you don't know about it, but you feel like so ready to get going. And I totally find myself there at the moment. But the article continues, and it certainly isn't all as positive as it describes this phase. It gets into the survival phase, or the first month or two of teaching, and she describes how there's all these unanticipated problems, and you're just consumed by the day to day, and you don't have time to reflect on what you've been doing or what's kind of going on with your job within the classroom at the school. And Then that leads in the disillusionment phase, which you throw on top of everything that's going on, the back to school night and parent conferences and an evaluation by the principal or an admin, and it just Ellen Muir describes it as just kind of things just adding up on top of each other, and you just feel like you're just trying to keep your head above water until you get to about winter break or the rejuvenation phase, and you kind of have this relief of being half done with the year, and you realize, oh, I can take some time and look back on what I've done and reflect on what's gone well, what hasn't gone well. But you can kind of start to both see the difference in the impact you're making, as well as start to see the finish line a little bit of year one, which the year then ends with the reflection phase, which you have to look back at everything that you've done as a class, make some changes, but ultimately realize, okay, even though there were points of challenge, this was something I can do and did do, and ultimately, hopefully, enjoyed along the way. Some takeaways I had from this article: one, the importance of taking time to reflect um, as you're going through the year. And she describes in the middle couple phases there how it's so easy to just get so caught up in every challenge and just be so stressed about what's going on that day or the next day, and just kind of lose yourself and forget about all of everything you've accomplished, and the jumps that particular students have made, or to highs and lows of the year. And to not take the time to do that seems like a miss. And if the only time that that's happening is at the winter break and then the end of the year, it seems like it would be a long 4 month period in between those things to try and grind through without kind of taking the time to realize, oh, like this is what makes it worth it. The idea of setting fair expectations, both in this article as well as everything else I researched, seem to be a common theme. And so, as with regards to your first years, set fair expectation for yourself and know that, okay, not everything's going to be perfect. I'm going to make mistakes. There's going to be points where I'm not maybe super experienced, and that shows. But expectations should include things like I'm going to control my attitude, and I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to show up to work every day and do my best. And an expectation shouldn't be that you teach every lesson perfectly, or that there's no changes that you would make looking back in hindsight. So setting fair expectations for yourself, and then later on we're going to see also we need fair expectations for students in class. But then also, lastly, remember that life is bigger than teaching, bigger than a job. That's true of any profession, but certainly that's true of teaching. And so to find things in life that are able to renew this energy. Ms. Murr's article talks a lot about how you're going to be running out of energy and just running on empty for so much of the year. And um, you have to have things in your life, whether it's relationships with colleagues or friends or family or whatever it is, that are able to get you back to the point where you can show up to school with energy. Because it's a profession that's going to just keep knocking you down if you don't show up at least ready to go at the beginning of the day. Um, On to one of my first top topics, excuse me, classroom management, something that really kind of worries me as someone without a lot of teaching experience. Because it's one thing it's difficult to prepare for. We can talk about it in our education classes about how important it is and different strategies, but it's different when you're actually in the moment of being in front of the class, and it feels overwhelming at points. And so I looked into it a little bit, and Audrey Fisher wrote a journal article titled "Strategies for Classroom Management," and again, this idea of expectations came up. One for yourself, and understanding that again you're not going to be perfect, but along with this goes the thought of, okay, what am I actually going to be able to do? What are strategies for classroom management that I'm going to be able to hold myself to and know that I will actually pull off if I say I'm going to? Because some things just aren't um, in certain individuals' comfort zones or the type of personality they have, and if it's not a good fit for you, it's not something that would make sense to implement in your class. And also expectations for students, and knowing what you're comfortable with, and or if you're comfortable with chatter in the classroom, if you feel like that's a way for students to learn, then you're going to have maybe a different set of expectations for how a classroom looks than a teacher who maybe demands a little bit more order and maybe strict isn't the word, but has higher expectations and thinks that students need that in order to function and learn in class. Um, Another thing that Fisher points out is just the power of getting to know your students, and something that keeps coming up this semester, it seems, is that if students like you and if students feel like you know them and care about them, they're going to feel the need to behave and the desire to behave for you. Wong and Wong point out that you're hired to impact lives and how this is bigger than teaching. And knowing students, one, it'll help your classroom management, but ultimately, the much more important reason to get to know students is because um, this is such a relational job, and students need to be known and want to be known and don't always get that from many adults in their life. And a teacher can be that for them. And the last huge point that Fisher made was the power of being fair, positive, and consistent. Um, Especially in high school, students are really, really good at sniffing out when things are unfair, and they'll let you know. Um, and consistent goes along with that. If a certain student is getting different treatment than others, or whether it's positive or negative, it's going to be pointed out by the class, and that is going to be something that the students are going to eat a teacher alive if they realize that not everybody's getting treated the same way. And being positive, lastly, is if you can make the students feel like you're on their team, and rather than you're someone out there to punish them, you're someone to um, give them the best experience you can. That's going to go a lot farther than just trying to dictate everything based off your rules in class. And then building on classroom management, Erin Rosemary Wong talked about the importance of scripting out the first day. Again, this idea of expectations, not only having your own expectations, but then making those clear to students. Um, and if you script out the day, then you'll be able to understand the direction you're trying to go. Students will notice that you are prepared and in control of class, which is something they're really looking for. It may seem like students, especially in high school, want to feel like they're in control and have class be chaotic, but really a safe place and a classroom that the teacher has the expectations set and can explain that to students and show up ready to go and have kind of a lesson for the day and an order of things and all of that. That's going to make students feel much safer in class, and it's going to be the class run a lot smoother. And then the last topic I looked at was parents and how to deal with parents, especially as a first year teacher, and even more specifically, um, hopefully I get a job next year, but at that point I'll only be 23 years old, and so that's something that concerns me as well. Talking with my mentor teacher, he gave me two things to always remember. He said, one, parents being involved is a good sign. The moment that parents stop worrying about their kids struggling in class or stop contacting you at all is that's the point where all of a sudden parents just aren't involved anymore and parents stop to care, and that is not what is going to be best for their student and their child. And the other thing he always points out is um, especially early on, understand the skepticism that parents might have in you, whether you see that at a parent-teacher conference or back to school night or in an email. Like parents might feel like, oh my gosh, who is this person who has never really taught before, trying to teach my kid? So understand that, but don't believe in it. And um, ultimately, if I or whoever a new teacher is someone who the school trusts to be in that position, and someone who is qualified and gets hired, then um, I should have the faith in myself that I'm going to do a good job, and I don't need to believe that parent skepticism, but I should understand where it's coming from. Andy Miller writes a book titled Teachers, Parents, and Classroom Behavior, and he points out a couple things to build in this idea of parent relations. He says that parents want what's best for their child, just like us as teachers do. And this is something we need to remember. It's not us versus them, and there's power in teaming up with parents. And um, one side of this is that if there's open communication about from the teacher to parents and parent to teacher about what they're seeing and what they feel like is best for the child, and um, some strategies that both sides can take going forward to best serve the child, that's ultimately going to be very healthy. Um, but on the other side is the danger of making the opposition kind of the bad guy. That can happen in both directions. That could be parents um, kind of giving the student the idea like the teacher actually doesn't know what they're doing, and putting the idea in the student's head that the teacher isn't doing a good job or the teacher isn't there for them. It can work the other way. The teacher can kind of give the impression to the student that maybe the parent doesn't quite know what they're talking about, and if from either side there isn't support for the other, the student's going to be put in a spot where they may not be able to maximize um, what they're doing in class or their ultimate success. So the idea of a team between teachers and parents to support students is huge. And then lastly is being honest. And there's going to be points where parents aren't happy with you as a teacher, and um, that problem is going to always become worse if, as a teacher, you're not able to explain why you did something, or explain what you did in the first place. And hopefully, at your school, you have support of your administration, and you'll be able to be backed up in your decision. But if you do have that support from your school and you truly do want what's best for your students and you are acting in a way to try and maximize that, then you should be able to be confident and be honest with parents and just say, this is what I did and here's why. And if I could talk about that more, we can. But um, if you're honest with yourself and you are truly there to serve your students, then honesty is going to be what takes you the farthest. So again, a couple references here that we went over, but to summarize, in the first year, it seems like expectation is such a huge piece of this. Um, so having fair expectation for yourself, not expecting too much, but not expecting too little, as well as figuring out what your expectations are for your students. Um, and if you can get those in line, and then you show up ready to go every day and are able to kind of keep your energy high and deal with the stress that comes with the first year of teaching, that is part of that expectation again. Hopefully you can at least minimize the stress that comes along with this first year and kind of beat that retention rate.